Welcome back, guys. Back at it again with another reactions video. My name is Angel. Today I'm going to react to a video explaining why it's crazy to say Steph Curry has surpassed Magic Johnson. Now let me know down in the comments if you think Steph Curry is the greatest point guard ever, or if you think Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard ever, or if you think another point guard is the greatest point guard ever. With all that being said, let's take a look at the video and see why Steph Curry hasn't surpassed Magic Johnson.
If you go online and search around social media, you'll quickly find out that Steph Curry has so many fans. It's very understandable. The guy is the greatest shooter that the game of basketball has ever seen. He spaces the floor like no one else has before, and with him leading the way, he has pushed the NBA into a new era, focused almost entirely on three-point shooting. He's also a 6'3" player who isn't an athletically gifted freak like many modern-day superstars. Yet he still finds a way to be an elite ball player year in and year out. Many people find this quality admirable. No matter how you slice it, Steph has firmly established himself as one of the greatest basketball players to ever live. Now, with that being said, many of his fans online, many modern athletes, and much of the mainstream media are anxious to put him into the top spot of the greatest point guards of all time. And my response to that is,
stop it. Get some help.
It's not that I think Steph isn't on his way to the top.
Ooh, nice move.
He's still very elite, and by the end of his career, he might just be the consensus pick over Magic Johnson. But in my opinion, this is the perfect example of recency bias, and way too many people being a slave of the moment. It's so premature to already put him in the top spot, but many people forget just how dominant Magic Johnson was in such a short period of time. Unlike many of today's modern legends, Magic wasn't blessed with a long and healthy career. In 1991, he shook the world with his announcement that he had obtained HIV. You need to understand, when Magic played his last game before that announcement, he was only 31 years old. Think about other NBA greats if they retired at that same age. Dirk Nowitzki would no longer be an NBA champion. LeBron James would only have 2 rings instead of 4. Shaq would have 3 titles instead of 4. Duncan would have 4 titles instead of 5.
I mean, that's a big what ifs. If we go on what ifs on everything, then, if Grant Hill was healthy, he could have been one of the greatest players of all time. If Tracy McGrady was healthy, who knows how his career would have went, It's just so many players that you go. If Derrick Rose was healthy, oh my goodness. How many titles he would have won, or you're thinking he could have won. So about this, like the whatever, he's saying right now about this, kind of a little, not a good argument for Magic Johnson's case. But let's continue with the video and see what he says. What else he says.
Michael Jordan would only have 3 titles instead of 6, and Steph Curry would only have 3 titles instead of 4. Magic Johnson had 5 championship rings when he had to retire at such an early age. And there was still a second half of his career in store that we never got to witness. Who knows? Magic may have ended up with 7 or 8 championships if he wasn't forced to retire early. Now don't get me wrong, my point isn't to give Magic credit for things that he actually didn't accomplish. But what you certainly can't argue is the fact that Magic built a GOAT candidate resume in roughly half the time that it took everyone else to build theirs. Also consider this, in the last 2 seasons leading up to that retirement, Magic was the league MVP in 1990, and he was the MVP runner-up in 1991.
So that's basically just telling you, when he retired, he was still in his prime, still had about 3-4 years of his prime left, So, yeah, he's right in saying that he probably would have won 2 more titles. And if you think about it, that would have affected Jordan's career, because Jordan won his titles when Magic and Bird were no longer there or healthy enough to stop him from winning titles. That's how amazing Magic Johnson was. He only needed, about 11 years to dominate the NBA and put up the numbers that he did and win the titles that he did, win the MVPs, finals MVPs.
Game 5 of the 91 finals, which was the last game of that season, Magic had 16 points, 20 assists, and 11 rebounds. He got 20 assists in a finals game, while his two best scoring options were out with injuries, which were James Worthy and Byron Scott. Not only were there no signs of him slowing down, but you could argue that he was just as good as ever. Steph has already significantly passed Magic in seasons played.
And I'm going to tell you guys one thing. I may not be correct in this, but I heard rumors from back in the day that Charles Barkley and a lot of players petitioned to the NBA that they didn't want Magic Johnson coming back because back in those days, they didn't know about HIV and AIDS, and they thought that you can pass it around like if it was COVID, like it is now. Obviously, we know that's not the case. You don't pass it like that, doesn't pass that way. But they thought, oh, touching the basketball and him touching the basketball, the reason he retired early was because he was forced to, not because he wanted to. He was still in his prime. Just in case you guys didn't know, you might want to take a look at that. I may be wrong. Hopefully, I'm not spreading misinformation. But from what I recall, this was a while back, like a long time ago, that I remember reading these articles and hearing and seeing videos. But a lot of the players didn't want Magic Johnson to come back, obviously, because if he came back, he was still in his prime and they weren't going to win titles. Little did they know they weren't going to win titles anyways because Jordan was there. But I heard a lot of players from the NBA at that time were like, nah, we don't want to, what if he passes it on to us too? So there was a lot of fear and they didn't let Magic Johnson come back for that reason. He didn't retire because of, just that he was forced to retire because the NBA is like, hey, can't let you come back. It might be a hazard to everybody else, so if you didn't know, now you know.
Yet he's still trying to catch him in terms of every major accolade, including MVPs, championships, finals MVPs, and all NBA teams. And 3 steals on 61% shooting. And what people often fail to consider is how a rookie Magic did that against the Philadelphia 76ers, who were the #1 ranked defense that season.
There you go.
That was Magic's impact in his first season. While on the other hand, Steph Curry wasn't even considered as an elite player in the league until his 4th or 5th season.
That's true.
Again, I just can't emphasize.
In Steph Curry's case, in Steph Curry's defense, a lot of that had to do with the injuries that he had early in his career, if I recall. The ankle injuries and stuff, and that's how they were able to get Klay Thompson and, Draymond Green was like in the second round, but specifically get Klay Thompson and build up the team the right way, but yeah, so that's kind of like, it's a bad thing for Steph, but, injuries happen, nothing he can do about it.
Enough how Magic didn't have the luxury of a full career like many other greats did. In this modern NBA, LeBron James is entering his 21st season in the league, Chris Paul is entering his 19th, and Kevin Durant is entering his 16th. John Stockton was another great point guard from Magic Johnson's era, and he played 19 seasons in the NBA. Magic only played 12 seasons before HIV caused him to retire. If he had a career as long as the other greats I previously mentioned, then he would have been competing for championships alongside of Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant in the twilight of his career. In Magic's 12 seasons before the announcement, he made it to the NBA Finals.
Hold on. I don't think Magic retired 31 in 91. If it would have been 5 more years, he would have been like 36. So I don't know if he would have still been playing. I don't know. That one's a little probably untrue on that regards, because Kobe came into the league in 1996. Shaq joined them after signing with the Lakers, and yeah, same year I believe 1996. So yeah, Magic could have been in the league, but he wouldn't have been in his prime. That's for sure.
Finals 9 out of those 12 seasons. And in the entire Western Conference,
it's crazy.
He finished the highest in the MVP race 9 seasons straight. That is dominance.
He's a beast.
If we're being honest, that's a level of individual dominance that Steph Curry can only dream of, as his longest streak was just 2 seasons. Now, some Steph Curry fans will argue in his favor, saying that Steph changed the game with his 3-point shooting, and thus did something that
I'll agree. Steph Curry did something amazing. But let's not forget, Magic and Bird saved the NBA. So without them, there is no Steph Curry, there is no LeBron James, there is no Michael Jordan. There just isn't. The NBA probably would have gone down the toilet. And that's facts. So that just they cancel each other out there. But also too, a lot of Steph Curry's game, the way he can play that way, is because they changed the rules of the way the physicality is being played, and rightfully so, right? You pay these players now so much money. You don't want them to get injured. There's no longer the Jordan rules. Can you imagine if there was the Steph Curry rules? Like Steph Curry would not last, you know, in an era of Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, or Magic Johnson. Not in those times. Not with teams the way they clotheslined you and hit you. So it's kind of New York.
That no other great has ever done before. I'm gonna be honest, I hate this argument so deeply because it isn't nearly as unique as they make it seem.
Yeah.
When you narrow down the list of the top 10 greatest players of all time, nearly every one of them did something that completely changed basketball.
Yeah.
For example, Michael Jordan made the game global. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson literally saved the NBA in the
Facts.
1980s.
Facts.
Wilt Chamberlain changed the rulebook because of his dominance,
Yeah.
as the league office was looking for ways to slow him down and balance the league. Bill Russell won more championships than any other player in NBA history.
Only about like
Other
12
than Bill
teams.
Russell, the longest streak of championships by a player is 3 straight rings. Bill doubled that and then added 2 more on top of it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar uniquely dominated the league as he introduced the most indefensible shot of all time, the
Still
skyhook.
is. Still
In the
is.
history of the game, no player has ever had an entire conference gearing up to stop him like Shaquille O'Neal did in the early 2000s. I could keep going, but as you can see, many all-time greats have done things that have changed the game. So Curry fans saying my boy changed the game with his shooting isn't swaying anything when you're looking at the select few greatest players of all time. Earlier I mentioned how mainstream media is already pushing this narrative. One of those people is Colin Cowherd, who claims that Steph Curry has already surpassed Magic Johnson, due mostly to the fact that Steph is a great shooter and Magic is not. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the dumbest arguments you could possibly make when comparing greats.
Yeah.
Holding past legends to the standard of what makes players great in the modern game is ridiculously biased.
And the funny thing is, back in those days, they played slow ball. Obviously, Showtime Lakers played fast. But you imagine the rules of the way they are now? They would have averaged probably 20, 30 more points. No lie. With the more possessions, the way other teams play faster. Because think about it. The Showtime Lakers were the team that was playing the fastest. Other teams were trying to slow it down so the Lakers get less possessions. But if the other teams are running up and down with the Lakers, who do you think is going to win that battle? The Lakers. So now they're going to get about 20, 30 more possessions. And what do you think that's going to happen? It's going to inflate the stats even more. Magic played in an era where they played defense. Steph Curry plays in an era where they play offense, just strictly offense. There's no dominant defensive teams. There's no shutdown point guards, shooting guards, or centers, shot blockers like that. When Magic was in the league, there was, But when Steph Curry has been in the league, nah, there hasn't. They've all gone away. The last one you can say he's injured all the time is like a Kawhi Leonard, like a real shut you down type of perimeter player. You got Marcus Smart. He got cooked, by Steph Curry. He's not a shutdown. He's just like a role player he would be a role player in the 80s or 90s on a real solid team, like one of those Hall of Fame teams. He'd be a bench player, I don't know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments. Maybe I'm overreacting or whatever. But, I'm being unbiased. I know you guys probably think I'm not, since I'm a Lakers fan. And I love both players. Magic's amazing and Steph Curry's amazing. They're both amazing. You can't take anything away from them. They've accomplished so many things and probably achieved more than what they expected. Especially on Steph Curry's side. People just saw Steph Curry and saw him as it's a little guy, 6'3" guard, skinny, Davidson. Oh, he could shoot threes. Oh, good for him. But nah, I knew from the beginning seeing him that, he was different. He was special. The way he moved, the way he made his team better, and he opened up the court. And I felt like if everything went right, You know, it was looking kind of shaky in the beginning, but once his injuries weren't happening anymore and he settled in, he got stronger, and the basketball gods kind of assisted him in his career and saying, yeah, you're him. He took every ounce of his ability to the max and surprised a lot of people, including myself. I thought he was going to win a title or two. I didn't think he was going to win four, but two of them you can say are asterisks. Well, three of them, right? The first one, because LeBron didn't have his full team. Kyrie got hurt, Kevin Love got hurt, but he still won the title. And the other two are when Kevin Durant joined and they won those titles. Like, make a super team like that and begging for it, like Steph Curry did after getting whooped by LeBron. Like, that's crazy to me. That takes you off of the top 10. Period, man. I just, nah. Now, when you compare it to all the other greats, like, yeah, he could be the second greatest point guard of all time. But I don't even know, man, because a lot of people are excluding Zeke out of this, Isaiah Thomas, and that's very disrespectful. Sure, he has, like 2 titles maybe, but he was giving it to Jordan, and he beat Larry Bird and he beat Magic Johnson. So there's that too, right? Let me know down in the comments if you think Zeke is up for a debate, or just people overlooking him and just, disrespecting him. Let me know down in the comments.
And seems desperate for a hot take. If you went back in time and during the 1980s, you told Magic Johnson he wasn't the best point guard because he couldn't shoot from the perimeter, he would probably say, "What the hell does that have to do with me winning a championship?" Magic was the guy who found his shooters, like Michael Cooper and Byron Scott. And at that time, that era wasn't defined by screens and three-point shooting, but it was defined by fast break transitional basketball, which no one was better at than Magic. None of those stars in the 80s gave a damn about winning a hypothetical horse competition with players from the future. They were trying to win championships in that era based on the style of that era. And clearly, Magic was very good at doing that, which should be what truly matters. Now listen, this video is not intended to come across as a Steph Curry slander video. My only point is that people are young and overreactive sometimes, and they're prematurely trying to put him in a spot that currently belongs to someone else. As of now, Magic has the edge in dominant consistency, championships, and individual accolades. I just don't see an angle where you can legitimately elevate Steph Curry above him at this current time. With that being said, Steph isn't showing any signs of slowing down either, and shooting ability is one of the skills that age the most gracefully in the NBA, so you would be foolish to say that it's impossible for him to pass Magic at some point in the future. As in the case of most things, time will tell. So what do you guys think? Am I wrong? Has Steph already passed Magic as the greatest point guard of all time? And if he hasn't, what would he have to do in order to secure the #1 spot? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
My last statement is going to be Steph Curry and Magic Johnson are both amazing. Spectacular players. The only reason we're nitpicking is because Steph Curry is knocking on the door on the top 10 greatest basketball players to ever play. In my personal opinion, Steph Curry is not top 10 greatest NBA player of all time. He's knocking on the door. But if you're saying Steph Curry is a better point guard, #1 point guard than Magic Johnson, and Magic Johnson's #2, you're basically saying Steph Curry's in the top 10 greatest players of all time. And that's not the case. Magic dominated more aspects of the game, and Steph Curry is starting to dominate more aspects of the game, and he's starting to become, as he's gotten stronger, looking more reliable on defense, looking more reliable on getting rebounds, especially in the finals, but I think considering in the eras that they played and considering the competition that they played and teams being fully healthy and Magic just doing it from the beginning, let me know down in the comments where you guys have Steph Curry on the top 10. Where do you guys have him in the point guard rankings. If he's E1, is he 2, is he 3? Do you agree with Steph Curry that he's the greatest? It's just him and Magic, or are you guys leaving like players like Isaiah Thomas out of it? Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. I'm kind of curious. I kind of love debates. I don't, it's not nothing disrespectful. Obviously, all these players are amazing and spectacular, and I just want to see, how everybody views basketball. Obviously, people are going to view it different, and that's the whole beauty of sports is just debating and being passionate about it, and just having fun talking about it and not being disrespectful about it. Because at the end of the day, these guys do the best that they can to be the greatest that they can to provide for themselves, their family, and for the fans and for the organizations and teams that they play for. And basketball is an amazing sport and my first true love. So I love talking about this and debating back and forth with people. And I'm sure there's people like me out there. So with all that being said, if you like the content, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and see you on the next video.